Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Stinchfield. Once again, the governor of Minnesota has proven to be, I don't know, what would you call it? Totally incompetent, deranged, inept, as it's now being proven that he oversaw a $1 billion fraud scheme carried out against his state. Now, this fraud scheme specifically involved all kinds of Somali nonprofits. You have 78 of the 86 people arrested in this $1 billion fraud against the state of Minnesota. 78 of the 86 were Somalis. And apparently they were sending money back to Somalia to fund terror groups there. Really quite awful when you think about it, and the damage that could be done not just to Minnesota, but the United States in general. This is President Trump when he was headed back to Washington, D.C. from Mar-a-Lago, talking about Tim Walz and his assessment of him.
Do you stand by that claim of calling Tim Walz retarded?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with him. Absolutely, sure.
Because you don't think
you have a problem with him? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into his state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country.
Of course, the media doesn't want to focus on what President Trump is saying there, which is these Somali nationals that come in and start bilking America, specifically Minnesota. They want to focus on, he used the term retarded. Everybody needs to just grow up and move on, okay, and put their big boy pants on. So here's how the fraud went down. The billions of dollars went to non-existent homeless people, went to non-existent hungry children, and apparently also went to non-existent Somali autistic children, which then enabled them to send money back to some of these terror groups in Somalia. So what does Tim Walz have to say about all of this? Take a listen.
Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can. But to demonize an entire community on the actions of a few, it's lazy.
Well, you go woke, you go broke. And so I had an assessment, and then Christopher Rufo, the gentleman who broke the story, basically confirmed my assessment that the government was on to this, but because they didn't want to appear racist, they let it slide right underneath their noses. Here's Christopher Rufo.
The Minnesota state government, the Democrats who are in charge, Tim Walz and others, have effectively turned a blind eye to this because they don't want to offend the Somalis. They don't want to, earn the accusation of racism. What the Somali activists are very ready and very eager to deploy. And they feel that they need the Somali vote in Minneapolis to win statewide.
This is becoming a problem all around the country, quite frankly. Well, I told you it's the Islamic invasion of America, front and center in Minnesota, but it's happening in many, many states around the country, including my home state of Texas. So what did President Trump do? Well, today he terminated the temporary protected status for Somalis. He has halted migration from, quote, third world countries, and he's pausing all asylum decisions. Because this is about making sure we do what's best for America. Here's Caroline Levitt.
I'll tell you what does not add to our nation's character and integrity is refugees who come here under the alleged plight of asylum and fleeing persecution and then come to the United States to abuse our system and rip off American taxpayers. And as I pointed out, the New York Times, to their credit, it was about 6 months too late, but they did write about how Somali immigrants in Minnesota have been ripping off American taxpayers.
Nobody wants that. And nobody wants the terror that comes along with it, funding terror groups, bilking taxpayers, you name it. The ramifications go straight on down the line. Well, someone who's been warning about this unfettered immigration situation, I want to bring in national security analyst, New York Times bestselling author, and chairwoman of actforamerica.org. Brigitte Gabriel is with us. Brigitte, it's great to have you on the program again.
Thank you. Delighted to be with you.
All right, so what do you make of this story, and how do you relate it back to basically the warnings that you've been sounding for a very long time, Brigitte?
We are very concerned about the Somali community. This is before the fraud. Remember, we had 44 jihadists from Somalia leave Minnesota to go fight with Al-Shabaab in Somalia. The first American suicide bomber that got killed, that blew himself up, was actually a Somali American that we have imported here from Somalia to the United States. Ilhan Omar defended the jihadists of Minnesota because, of course, she was protecting them. So not only they have a history of terrorism, and now we find out they are now also involved in fraud and scam. $1 billion, $1 billion. This is a community of 80,000 people. So we are not talking about millions of people in Minnesota. We're talking about a community of 80,000 Somalis settled in Minnesota who are responsible for a scam totaling $1 billion plus from taxpayers' money. And all this, and the elected officials turn the blind eye. This is a reckoning moment. This is a moment where the American public needs to stand with President Trump and put pressure on Congress to support the president and pass the bill that will permanently put a pause on importing people like this into our country. And I want everybody, if you want to send the message to your elected officials, go to actforamerica.org, actforamerica.org. Click on Act Now. We have the emails already prepared for your elected officials. We want to light a fire under the feet of our members of Congress in every state to stand with the president and make sure we protect the interests of American citizens first, instead of importing third world country people who are robbing us blind.
Yep. Speaking of robbing us blind, let me show you a graphic of the Minnesota housing budget, one of the groups that apparently was built. It's pretty amazing when you look at the numbers, if we can throw that up on the screen. From 2021, now mind you, it was supposed to have a budget of $2.1 million. Instead, it goes 21 million, 42 million, 74 million, 104 million, and this year alone, 61 million through the first 6 months of 2025, leading us down $120 million of this budget. I would think, okay, fraud, but also this is housing. They were housing illegal aliens and spending lots of money to do it. Is this a combination of both the fraud and the unfettered immigration and taxpayers on the hook for it?
All combined, it's a combination of fraud, lying, deceiving, housing illegal immigrants. And not just this, the Medicaid housing services started in 2021 with $2.6 million and ended in 2024 with $61 million. When you look at the autism scam, by the way, it started with $3 million in 2018. It ended in 2023 with $399 million. How did they go from $3 million in 2018 to $399 million? Didn't anybody ask any question, how is this happening? And this is, by the way, aside from the $250 million on the feeding our community, whatever it's called, scam. Yeah. And nobody paid attention. But again, Christopher Rufo was right. They won't vote. In Minnesota, the Democrats know they're not going to win the election without the voting bloc of the Somali community. By the way, most of them don't even speak English.
It's amazing, and I did see a young man go and try to interview these people, and they said they couldn't speak English. I don't know. I think some of them were pretending they couldn't speak English as well. Let me show you this. On another note, I want to turn to Afghanis who had come here after the debacle of an evacuation from Joe Biden. This dude on here apparently issued a TikTok video saying he was building a bomb to blow up a building in Fort Worth. He once worked for the CIA in Afghanistan. I understand we had partners there, and if they were good people, maybe you bring them here, but somehow we got lost along the way, and those people working for the CIA may not have been as great as we thought they were. And by the way, they list him as white, which makes no sense to me either, as you see on the screen. Brigitte, I'll let you respond.
We knew we could not trust our supposedly allies working with us in Afghanistan. I mean, look at the suicide bombers that would go and try to assassinate or kill or blow themselves up in the same bases where they were working along the side of our military personnel. We had people killed, we had people injured. I know Obama did not want to talk about it because remember, Obama was covering up for them. And then, we had the debacle under Biden, but we knew we could not trust them. We knew that a lot of them were working with us only for the money, and they were working as double agents. So when we withdrew out of Afghanistan and we brought all these people en masse, there is no way we could vet them. And in America, we judge other countries based on our knowledge of how we keep records. There are computer records. If you have a traffic ticket, there's a computer record that you got a traffic ticket back in 2006 when you were driving somewhere. The rest of the world doesn't operate that way. There is no record on these people in many of these countries. It doesn't matter what they say. There is no such thing as vetting the way we know what vetting is. And this is now, the eggs are coming home to roost. I mean, this is now, we are paying the price for years and years and years of neglecting a serious issue that the country better wake up in order to protect ourselves right now.
Well, I wish the people in charge would have listened to you a long time ago, because you've been talking about this for a long time. We're so blessed to have you on the program tonight. Brigitte Gabriel, as always, thank you so much. Check out your book, Rise. I urge everyone to do that. Thank you as always, Brigitte.
Thank you, my friend.
All right, you'll see you soon. All right, she said, look, it's all coming home to roost. We know that this Afghanistani Ramanwala Lukan, whatever the hell his name is, I'm not even going to tell you. Cut 15, put it up on the screen for this guy. This is the character that, this is the guy, no, we got the right guy who was going after the two National Guards men. One, Sarah Bergstrom, who was killed, and she was 20 years old. Just 2 years on the job in D.C. An Afghanistan national is the one who killed her. Now, Andrew Wolf, the other National Guardsman, we're told is in serious condition, is recovering. I'm quite frankly shocked he's still alive at this point-blank range, basically, they were shot at with a high-caliber revolver. It is amazing to me. Your prayers are working, so continue to say prayers for Andrew Wolf. Laganwal, apparently, he too worked for the CIA. They're claiming now mental illness and PTSD. Well, you know how many of our American soldiers have PTSD and don't resort to violence? To me, it's offensive that they want to use that as an excuse, but of course, that's coming from the left. I want to bring in now RAV correspondent who was at the Pentagon today for their new media week. He does have Pentagon credentials, shows you the rise of Real America's Voice. David Zier is with us. David, welcome to the program.
Hi, Grant. Great to be with you. An incredible time to be covering the Pentagon, is hotbed of issues going on across the globe. And the legacy media walkout down there, and Dem Michigan Rep Sri Thanadur considering articles of impeachment against Pete Hegseth once again, which was pulled by the Dems earlier this year. Venezuela, Nigeria, Hezbollah rearming in Lebanon, Ukraine, the National Guard terrorist attack. David, it's timely.
David, let me specifically ask you, because we're going to be covering some of those issues later in the program, but specifically the National Guard. And President Trump had said he's going to bring in 500 more National Guardsmen into Washington, D.C. Is there any sign of that movement happening?
I don't have any information about the progress of that, other than Hegseth was involved in ordering 500 more National Guard troops to D.C. You know, he conveyed gratitude to the National Guard troops the other day in our nation's capital, so I expect that to move quickly.
David, any other news about National Guard troops to other cities? We hear there's an operation in the southeast. There's New Orleans being involved. You've got some other cities around. Can you tell me anything about that?
I have an off-the-record briefing tomorrow with the Northern and Southern Command in the Pentagon. If there's anything I can share from that, I'll get it right up to Real America's Voice here. And on Wednesday, we're going to gaggle with Hegseth, so we're going to get a chance to ask him key questions about all of these things. And then we're going to be meeting with the Pentagon press secretary as well tomorrow. So, we expect to ask tough questions and remain vigilant and get to the bottom and the truth out to our viewers.
Well, exciting times ahead. David Zier, keep us posted. We'll certainly have you back on during the week while you're there inside the Pentagon. Thank you, my man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Grant.
All right, absolutely. I want to turn now to another very important issue facing America, and that is election security. It seems to me like we have not done enough as a nation to cut down on fraud within our election systems in so many states around the country. We are now getting word that in North Carolina, the Department of Justice wants answers from the Department of Motor Vehicles because they are registering non-citizens to vote, specifically 6 of them. But the question then becomes, how many more are there? People that are here legally, but not United States citizens, ineligible to vote. The DOJ is investigating. So is the local news media in Charlotte. This was an investigation by one of the local TV stations there. Check this out.
People who federal prosecutors are accusing the Department of Motor Vehicles of illegally registering to vote.
He is 22.
With the help of Jorge's fluent Spanish,
Buenas tardes.
we made contact with 2 of them who had similar things to say.
She made it clear that she did not register incorrectly. She was not fraudulent on anything. She had no idea until they reached out to her.
So then who registered them? Are there rogue employees inside the DMV? What in the world's going on here? Because we can't have this. We got enough of that in California, much less having this in a very important state like North Carolina, where we need senators from there. We need more members of Congress from North Carolina, and we need to make sure that we keep and get North Carolina to be a red state. I want to bring in now former U.S. Navy JAG officer, former Special Assistant United States Attorney, and now Republican U.S. Senate candidate for North Carolina. Don Brown is back with us. Don, welcome to the program. All right. Do we have Don's audio? We have, let me just check with this to make sure we get Don. All right, now we got him. Don Brown, welcome to the program. This is specifically of importance to you, Don, because you have an election coming up. If you've got illegal, well, not illegals, but non-citizens voting, this is a big issue. What did you think when you heard about this?
Well, Grant, thanks for having me back. It is good to see you. I wasn't surprised. I'm glad to see the U.S. Attorney in the Western District, Russ Ferguson, taking a hard look at this. There's a book by a friend of mine, Lieutenant Colonel Jay Delancey, wrote a book called Aliens Among Us, outlining massive voter fraud in North Carolina. And a lot of it centers around all this motor voter stuff by the DMV. For years, we've heard reports of DMV employees pushing folks to register Democrats. But part of the problem is when you give driver's license to non-citizens, we're getting a lot of hanky-panky going on, whether those non-citizens are being registered with the system, or when they come back in to renew their license, they're able to re-register without proving citizenship. And as far as I'm concerned, this motor voter thing with the DMV's got to stop. Why would you go into the DMV to register to vote? I wouldn't go into the Department of Elections to try to get a driver's license. It's just it's been a disaster, and I'm hoping that the Justice Department will help to shut it down.
It seems to me that it's pretty standard procedure when you go into the driver's license office, the DMV in just about every state. They ask you a question: would you like to vote? Would you like to register? I guess in some respects it's okay you ask the question, but the problem is I don't think there's a state in America that's checking the answers to the questions of whether or not people are eligible or not, Don.
Yeah, I think you're correct. There's virtually zero enforcement. And as I say, why would you use DMV to register people to vote anyway? I wouldn't go into the Board of Elections and ask for a driver's license. Why would you do that? I mean, if you're going to vote, get some responsibility and go to the Board of Elections, prove citizenship, and register. And so it has created a situation for colossal fraud, which, of course, happens to help only the Democrats. And it's got to come to an end.
All right, so some good news to report. North Carolina State Board of Elections now says they will use a federal database that is used to verify immigration status of people on voter rolls. Many states like California are refusing to do this. The fact that North Carolina says it will utilize this, do you believe them? Is it lip service? What do you think?
Well, I'm optimistic because the State Board of Elections now, for the first time in many, many years, is controlled by Republicans. That's just happened. We have an outstanding new state auditor, Dave Bullock, who came into office in January and is conducting an aggressive audit of the past shenanigans of the State Board of Elections, and there have been a lot of shenanigans. So I think it's a step in the right direction. I think time will tell, but I think we're moving in the right direction in North Carolina. My concern is how many illegals we have who are registered now to vote, how much damage they're going to do in the primary coming in March, and how much damage are they going to do in the general election in November. And of course, these illegals are being brought here by the Democrats to these non-citizens that even are able to try to vote, not supposed to be able to vote, are being brought here to help Democrat candidates. So while we're moving in the right direction, we've got to be very, very aggressive in cleaning the voter rolls, more aggressive than we have been.
Look, we've had a year since the last election, 5 years since the election before that where we had all the problems. It's amazing to me to think that North Carolina has a primary in March, and here we are just a few months out still figuring out these same problems again, Don.
Got to get aggressive. We've got to get aggressive about it. We've got to get serious about it. And we've got to deal with this legal and illegal immigration problem to try to make sure that only citizens vote. And we got to only count American citizens in the census. I'm going to push for a Citizenship Census Act when I get in the United States Senate so that we don't have overbloated counts, which only help these blue states. Only American citizens should be counted in the census.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you on that. Don Brown, we wish you luck in your race. Tell people where they can find you, my friend.
You bet. Please go to brown4nc.com, brownfornc.com. Love to hear from you. Help us out in our race. We are running against the establishment, so we need every dime that we can get. We appreciate you having us on, and we're going to bring the torch of liberty back to the floor of the United States Senate and make North Carolina proud.
Well, you become a good friend of this program. We wish you luck, Don Brown. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Grant.
Absolutely. All right, folks, real quick. President Trump to the autopen. He now says autopen null and void, baby. This is what James Comer said about President Trump's Truth Social post, where he basically said, you know what, 92% of everything signed by the autopen, Joe Biden had no knowledge of, rendering them null and void. Here's James Comer.
No one could say, yes, Joe Biden told me to sign this document with my name. Yes, I participated in a meeting with Joe Biden where we discussed this executive order or we discussed this person's pardon. No one, his inner circle, we brought in all of his inner circle, some of whom pled the Fifth Amendment, wouldn't even answer the questions.
I believe, folks, there's criminal liability with all of this. Now we just have to figure out, will anyone have the stones to go after these people? The people at the highest levels of the White House really made an end run around Joe Biden. And that, in many respects, is Joe Biden's fault because he was literally out to lunch and out of his mind. All right, folks, there's a lot of politicians that should be getting coal in their stocking for Christmas, but Birch Gold thinks as a smart planner, you deserve silver. That's why for every $5,000 you purchase between now and December 22nd, Birch Gold will send you an ounce of silver, which is over 60% this year. Just text America to the number 989898 to claim your eligibility for this offer. Again, text America to the number 989898 today because Birch Gold's free silver with qualifying purchase promotion ends on December 22nd. Text America to the number 989898. All right, up next, peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine are making headway. We will discuss the realities of that conflict.